As I write this, I sit beside a M9 9mm handgun. My mother was strictly against gun ownership and told me how dangerous they were, but sometimes I believe if she owned one, she would still be alive. She was murdered by Brian Lester, a man who had been stalking my family since I was 14 years old and my sister Sherry was 12. It started 6 years ago when me and Sherry were walking home from school. He had just moved into the house next door. Every time me and my sister walked to school and back, we saw him watching us through the windows of his house, peeking through the curtains, or sometimes just blatantly staring with the windows wide open. We both thought he was a massive creep. However, we weren't really bothered by it until we saw him parked outside our school, watching us. When we saw him, we walked pretty quickly. When we turned the corner, we saw him driving around, and we both ran to our home. When we told our mom what happened, she called the police, but they were useless. They told us he worked as a janitor at our school and was just driving around. Our mom decided to confront him herself. She knocked on the door and started shouting at him. Me and Sherry watched from the house. We couldn't hear what he was saying, but he had a stupid grin on his face. He pointed his finger at my mom before pointing at the house. Our mom punched him in the nose, breaking it before walking away. The creep immediately called the police and pressed charges against our mom. She wasn't arrested but had to pay a fine. We also found out his name was Brian Lester. From there, things got worse. One time, Sherry was home alone when Mom was working out of town and I was going to a concert. Sherry had just gone shopping when she was walking home. Lester was outside and called her over, calling her sweetheart and asking if our mom was home. She ignored him and he got aggressive, shouting at her to answer him and ran after her. Sherry got inside, shut the door, and locked it in time before he got in. He was knocking on the door, screaming. She called the police again, but they were useless. That incident made us make sure not one of us was ever in that house again. Things escalated. Flowers, boxes of chocolate, and creepy-looking dolls were left on either the front door, back door, or on the windows. One night, I was up very late studying when I went upstairs into the kitchen to make some food. That's when I saw in the window that creep right against the window staring at me, his mouth gaping and eyes wide open. I grabbed the biggest kitchen knife and screamed for my mom. The man slowly left the window when Mom ran out of her room and down the stairs. When I told her, she was furious. She called the police, who once again did nothing. That's when she ran out of the house, knocked on his front door, and screamed for him to come out, yelling she would kill him if he went near us again. After she came back into the house, the police arrived. He had called them and showed them footage of my mom threatening him while putting a hole in his front door. They placed her under arrest and brought her in for the night for questioning, leaving myself and Sherry home alone for the night. Neither of us could sleep. We locked all the doors and we sat in the bedroom with the movie on while we had the kitchen knives in our room, the largest one close to my hand. That night I peeked out the curtain and saw the silhouette of him peeking through the curtain of one of his windows, looking right at our bedroom window. Once again, our mom had to pay charges. She became very protective of us, as I was with Sherry. She started working from home, drove us to and from school, and only let us leave the house without her when we were at friends' houses. She even brought a baseball bat to use in self-defense and watched martial arts videos online. One day, we saw a for sale sign outside his house, and a moving van was taking his stuff out. We were so happy. We thought he was gone. That is, until a week later, when his house was empty and our mom was driving us to school. When she was driving us out of the driveway, I saw a rental car parked down the street and saw the man in the driver's seat watching us. She dropped us off, and that was the last time we saw her alive. We were waiting at the school for Mom to pick us up, but instead the rental car drove up to us. It was the creep. He told us that our mom wanted him to pick us up because she was involved in a car accident. I got in front of Sherry and started shouting at him, kicking his car and screaming. A teacher came over, and that's when the creep told us, "I'll get you and Sherry one day. See you around, Claire," before he drove off. The school offered to call the police. We were worried about our mom who didn't show up. The police drove to the school to speak to us and drove us to the police station. When we got there, a police officer told us our mom wasn't home and that her car was in the driveway. We immediately told them about the creep, about his name, Brian Lester. The police searched but couldn't find him or our mom. We had to go live with our aunt on our father's side. 6 years have passed and our mom is still missing. We lived with our aunt until we moved out. We've both had to skip college to pay the bills, working multiple jobs to afford an apartment. My sister wants to go to college but doesn't want to leave me alone. I want her to go, but she refuses. 2 weeks ago, I saw him again. I was in the shop when outside the front door, I saw him staring at me from inside his car. We live miles away, and he's found us. I hid in the store for an hour before leaving. When I got to the apartment, my sister was in tears. I asked her what happened, and she told me she was watching TV when she heard banging at the front door. She went up to it and saw someone was trying to get inside. She peeked through the peek hole and saw him trying to get inside. She froze in shock when the man walked away because a neighbor was passing by. I became furious and immediately went to apply for a firearm license. I know he murdered our mother, but I can't prove it. I only have to wait until he comes for me and Sherry because I am ready for him and I will kill him. For you, Mom.